Welcome to the SNN Network Canada virtual event. I'm your host, Robert Kraft, and on behalf of SNN Network, I'd like to welcome you to our next panel here today. This one, we did something similar at our first SNN Network Canada virtual event back in January, and it's been, listen, when we're talking media, entertainment, streaming, these are really interesting topics to us, and we want to kind of do a follow-up and understand where we're currently at. And we got an epic panel here today to go through all that. So taking us on this journey today is Sean MacGillis. He is the Managing Director, Investment Banking at Haywood Securities, Inc. With that, Sean, take it away, man.
Perfect. Well, great pleasure to be everyone's host for today. And thank you all for joining. Just quick disclaimer before we get rocking and rolling here. So I'm a Managing Director, Investment Banking with Haywood Securities, Inc., Canadian registered independent investment dealer, and a member of the CIPF. Any information presented in this message is for informational purposes only and is not a solicitation or an offer of securities. The views expressed are those of myself, not necessarily of Haywood Securities. Readers are cautioned not to act on any information without first obtaining the advice of a licensed investment professional. So with that, we can now dive in. So the whole kind of premise here is, and I think I'm just really excited by who's on the panel here because we can explore Web3, which is I think a really, really big macro trend and has really captured the zeitgeist of the media and investment community and the retail investor. But what we can do here is we can explore this through the eyes of professionals from the traditional media world. And between Jennifer at Thunderbird, Chris Overholt at OverActive, Derik and Tom at Network, there's a wealth of experience from traditional media, on the entertainment side for movies, show production, and also on the sports side that I think is going to give, everyone a really unique lens in terms of how to frame and think about Web3 and how that's changing the world for linear content and how maybe it's not changing the world for linear content. So I'm really excited to kind of talk through the future of media through that lens. Just a quick background on myself. Together with my partner, Matt, we run the diversified corporate finance team at Haywood Securities. Haywood's one of the independent dealers in Canada, currently managing roughly $15 billion assets under administration. And our focus is media, gaming, tech, cannabis, and we've been part of a number of landmark deals. If you want to learn a little bit more about me, you can visit my LinkedIn. There's a bunch of stuff there. But aside from that, I'm a nerd, engineer by training, and love the media space. And so with that, I'll turn it over. First, I'd like Derik and Tom to introduce themselves and each panelist introduce themselves and the company that they represent before we start diving into some macro questions. So with that, Derik, I'll pass it over to you and Tom.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Sean. I'm Derik.
Pleasure.
I'm Derik Murray. I'm the CEO, the founder of Network Entertainment, Network Media Group, NTE.V. And I'm joined today by Tom Lombardi. I'll hand the mic over to you, Tom. Tom is our NFT strategist, which is a new division that we've just opened, and we're really excited to talk about that today as well.
Great, thanks, Derik. Tom Lombardi, working with Network to design, build the NFT studios. I also am an adjunct professor at Pepperdine University. I teach digital asset finance to MBA students. And history is history, but worked with a large asset manager, 3iQ, out of Toronto, and also spent a lot of time at the Enterprise Ethereum Alliance. So working with global companies on how they define their blockchain Web3 strategies.
Amazing. And maybe Derik, just give a quick 15, 20-second background on what Network is, just for the audience.
Absolutely. Network Entertainment, we're based in Vancouver. We have about 40 employees. We have contractors all over the world, and we're in a very specific space in the entertainment business. We create high-end feature documentaries and documentary series, and this is content that is distributed on the most front and center streamers that we all now have on our menus, on our iPads, our phones, and our TV sets, if you even call them TV sets or flat screens these days. But we have built a brand and a reputation on a global scale. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that today as well.
Wonderful. Appreciate it. Chris, love for you to introduce yourself, OverActive Media, and what you guys are up to.
Great. Well, thanks and good to be with everybody and happy holidays. We're OverActive Media. I'm the president and CEO. We are today invested in the biggest and most important esport leagues that exist in the world: Call of Duty, Overwatch, League of Legends, Counter-Strike. We own franchise positions in 4 different leagues and are building what we believe is a 21st century sports media and entertainment company. My background is in pro sport over near 25 years. I started my career with the Raptors in 1996. And of course, we became Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment. I left from there to go down to Miami, where I ran the business of the Florida Panthers for a couple of years, and then sales marketing for the Dolphins before I came back to Canada to run the Canadian Olympic Committee proudly for 4 years, or for 9 years rather, over 4 Olympic Games. So again, we're building out a business that we think will ultimately become a modern expression of Madison Square Garden or Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment. And we've been underway for 3 years, just took the company public in July.
Love it. And tell us a little bit about the background you got going on there.
Yeah, this is our Red Bull studio. We have 16,000 square feet here in Toronto. And we've built out about 7,000 or 8,000 of those square feet into a great event space and studio space for Red Bull, our great partner. And so we're starting to host events here. We just finished a sports simulation event just a couple of nights ago, and we had the Toronto Maple Leafs holiday party in here a couple of weeks ago.
Sweet.
So, yeah, it's cool.
That's amazing. Love it. Love it. And Jennifer, over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Sean. I'm Jen McCarron. I'm the president and CEO of Thunderbird Entertainment. We create, own, and distribute award-winning factual, animated, and scripted content worldwide. We have offices in Los Angeles, Vancouver, and Ottawa, and Toronto, about over 1,000 employees. We're a small cap company with revenues over 115 million, EBITDA over 20 million. We're debt-free. We have increasing cash flow. Our last quarter was up 77% year-over-year growth. So we're really, grateful to be in a somewhat pandemic-resistant industry with everyone at home watching content, and never has there been a better time to be doing what we're doing. Our goal is to become the next major global studio, and with the teams in place, we've won a lot of Emmys. We were voted British Columbia's most diverse and inclusive company this year, which I'm really proud of, and I believe we're well on our way to that goal.
Oh, amazing. Thank you. And I think just on that, I'm going to jump right into a macro question just for you, Jennifer. And I mean, this is a question that's been asked from me from a number of different people around the street, and it's kind of revolves a little bit around Netflix and how they've changed the distribution paradigm. So in the past 6 months, we've seen Netflix hire head of gaming. They've acquired a game studio. They've discussed entry. That was Reed discussing entry into Formula One, and through Squid Game, which has been particularly interesting, exemplify their kind of dominance in content distribution through streaming. I think Squid Game pulled in almost 1.7 billion hours of viewing in the first 28 days following its premiere. So through this process, they've definitely made some big strides to change the production paradigm, largely from what it used to be, a hit-driven model built around theatrical release, to a much more targeted and controlled, I think, development process. And so, I just kind of want to focus the discussion on this around the sustainability of the current production model. So, for you, what major changes have you seen to content production with the proliferation of streaming, of Netflix, and how do you see traditional content, thriving in this new world?
Yeah, well, I think, all of the platforms need content. So be it for gaming or NFTs or whatnot, we're a pure content play. And so, setting up our own content, then we can leverage our own IP into all these different forms of cross-media exploitation. You name it, ice skating shows, NFTs, Cirque du Soleil, whatever it may be, you first need a really strong brand. And so that's what I see is the push for major global brands that can be put into any form of content. And that's what, the streamers are focusing on. The changes I've noticed, I grew up on the animation side of things, and We used to have a window to sell, from 8 a.m. till noon on Saturday mornings. Now people can watch content anywhere, anytime, on any device. 5G coming online, you can download it within 30 seconds. We worked with Netflix. You brought them up in particular to develop their interactive viewing. So that sort of, I don't know, when we were kids, you used to read those choose your own adventure books.
I
Now
remember those.
yeah. Now you can do
Goosebumps.
it online.
I remember Goosebumps. That was the one I remember.
Exactly.
Choose your own adventure, Goosebumps. Yeah.
Exactly. So we've done Last Kids on Earth in that fashion for them, Dogs in Space, a bunch of different shows. And so I think it's changing. How are people consuming content? Where are viewers' eyeballs going? What resonates? And everybody needs to stay ahead of that curve. But at the foundation, underpinning it all is the need for high quality content to proliferate this type of work from.
Right. And just, I guess a quick follow on to that. Just, direct changes that you've seen in how consumers are viewing this content. Like, is it, are you seeing a complete shift towards streaming? What's kind of your read there? And, what do you really see commanding viewers' attention now and perhaps kind of maybe going forward?
I think there's still a place for all different types of content. I think people are personalizing it. So what, resonates to you? Are you going to do you want to have more sports? What type of series do you want to find?
Right.
People are really personalizing how they consume content. I do think as it pertains to kids, the attention span or, changes I've seen, we used to do a 22-minute episode with 300 shots. Now they're, 625 and it still feels slow sometimes. With my own kids, I love Bambi. I couldn't wait to show them. And they were like, oh my gosh, can we go back to when the deer got shot? It was just so slow for them. And so viewers' habits have changed. It's faster. They want more. The kids are all playing games. And so it's interesting to watch it unfold. But I think for every viewer, there's a way to personalize content. Whatever is turning you on, you can find it. And that's what you can port into your home. The need for home viewing is here to stay. I don't see that changing anytime soon. Even post-pandemic, I believe the days of, crowding into movie theaters are likely forever altered. There'll hopefully always be that, but I think people can get it at their fingertips, whatever they want.
Yeah, I had the experience of seeing No Time to Die in London, and it was absolutely packed. And that was the first movie I'd gone to see since the pandemic, and it was a surreal experience, kind of being part of it. And you had this like feeling that it's almost the end of an era, maybe. I don't know, but it was definitely a pretty surreal feeling.
I met the owner of Cineplex once, and he said it will never die because of hormones, and because it's a safe place for young teens to go. It's your best safe date. So the more people that can fall in love with it on your first safe date, the better.
That's very insightful. Huh. I can relate to that. Anything you'd like to add, Derik?
No, I'm echoing for sure what Jennifer is saying. And I think that what's interesting about it is, not only do we all have access to this content essentially on every single platform imaginable, but as creators of content, we're essentially platform, agnostic. Our content is enjoyed on mobile phones, iPads, computer screens, your flat screen, theaters. We have a movie in a theater, we have a movie at a festival. I think the world is definitely changing, but I also think what's happening is what this streaming universe has done is that it's the platform of choice for audiences and for creators. And what you're seeing is this whirlwind of the world's top talent, whether it be, in front of the camera or behind the camera, they're flocking to this opportunity. They have an opportunity to create the content that they're proud of, have the resource to do so on this streaming platform. Whereas in the past, you might think that, the content of highest quality was what you would see in a theater as opposed to your home screen. That's changed. That dynamic has changed tremendously. And all of us as enjoyers of storytellers and content creators and audiences in general, we get the benefit of that. The quality of the content has never been higher. It's incredible. It's super exciting.
Yeah. And just on that vein, from your seat, obviously being super high production quality documentary focused, and Netflix definitely showing a lot of content these days just around documentaries like the F1 documentary, which has been crazy in terms of driving this flywheel of people to really get behind F1 again. So how have you kind of seen this market for documentaries change?
It's revolutionary. It's completely exploded. I mean, I go back a short time. 10 years ago, we decided to put our stake in the ground, as a global content creator. And that stake in the ground for us in that arena was a film that we produced called Facing Ali, which was really an expression of Ali's life as told by his 10 fiercest foes. And we traveled the world and brought, the Frasers and the George Foremans front and center in this film. And it was a film that we really put a lot of time and energy in because we wanted to put this stake in the sand in a meaningful fashion. And dreams don't always come true, but for us, they did. We were shortlisted for an Academy Award. The film was distributed all over the world. It had significant audiences with all of its broadcast partners and theaters. And so it was landmark for us. And that was a decade ago. And that opened up the door for us to be engaged with broadcasters and distributors all over the world, which, were very much asking the same question: what do you want to do next, right? But 10 years ago, if I look at it, there was, if I was to walk down that hallway where each of those doors was open for business, and I was going to knock on them, there might have been, 6 or 8 opportunities really that were significant. Now that's exploded, just with the streamers alone, it's close to 20, maybe 30 different opportunities where you can sell the type of content that we create. And you speak about, Netflix. I mean, let's not forget, every major media company and tech company in the universe has a streaming platform. And you're seeing it from the Disneys and the NBCs and the Paramounts and Apple and of course, YouTube. So, Netflix really, cracked open really the safe, to the fact that this was an opportunity for these media and tech companies to jump into this content universe, deal directly with their audiences, and have the benefits and the success of that.
Right.
So it changed dramatically.
Yeah. And has that buyer universe, it obviously, so there's been a change in the buyer universe, but have you seen that buyer universe as a result expand, or is it the same, but, just different? What's kind of your feel there?
No, I think it's expanded. There's no question. Certainly in our realm. We're in business with, 4 of those top streamers that I just mentioned. And there's 10 more. And you even look what's happening on AVOD now with companies like Roku, they're opening up, and now investing in original content. We were tapped on the shoulder to explore that Quibi experiment, which was, a year and a half ago, with Mr. Katzenberg investing in that medium as far as, mobile content. It didn't work out as they expected. And we, along with other creators, were halfway through when they decided to close the doors, but it was exciting. It was really exciting. There was a different universe and another opportunity. And I think those opportunities are going to explode. And I think this, as a matter of fact, and, I'm kind of pushing forward a little bit here, this whole NFT opportunity. It's a new digital platform. We're going to talk more about it, but it's incredibly exciting. And I think what's also interesting about this is that not only are there more buyers, but certainly, and I'm sure Jen can attest to this, but what has happened is it's competitive. They need to bring eyeballs in. They need to attract audiences in, and when they do, that means their subscriptions, therefore more embraced, and they're more successful. And what does it need? It needs premium content. It needs that quality content that Jen spoke about earlier. And what it also means is they need to put the resources in place for us to be able to produce that type of content. So what's really happened now is there's a real understanding of the kind of value that this content has, and hence, therefore, the value proposition is you need to pay for it in order to get that value on your screen. And so in our case, specifically in our area, that means, significant changes over the last 10 years. You've got
Right.
value propositions for feature docs that are, anywhere from 4 to, literally 7 times the budgets that were in place 10 years ago, 5 years ago.
Right. And I guess an off the cuff question for you, Chris, just given your sports background. I mean, what's kind of your lens? And I know OverActive Media is focused on the esports vertical, but I mean, what's kind of your lens just on sports in general and what's going on there? I mean, do you kind of see the same sort of thing happening where the buyer universe has expanded because of streaming, or is it the same but different, or is it more constrained? Like, what do you think that world looks like just on traditional sports?
Boy, that's loaded. So a couple of things, I guess, building on some of what's already been said. First, maybe I'm alone on this, but maybe Jennifer's with me at least a little bit. But the idea of in real life experiences, I don't believe go away, despite all the challenges we've been dealing with and seems we'll deal with for a while longer. But I still believe, and we see it in our community all the time, right? Ours is a native digital experience and platform for the fans and players alike. But they love to be together. The community loves to come together and celebrate what they love. And I think we'll continue to see that around the arts. I think we'll continue to see it certainly around sport. And if you had any hesitation as to that thinking, you'd only need look in on any of college football or what's been going on in the United States over the last 6 months. I sat and watched a Michigan-Ohio State game on Saturday with 107,000 people in that stadium. Doesn't look like anybody's averse to an in real life experience, be it outdoor or otherwise. So I think, maybe more slowly in some sectors than others, but I still believe whether it's hormones or just our need to be together as humans, I think that'll be a sustained experience. And so for those reasons, we're thinking about how we deliver in our business an IRL experience and a new venue proposition that we've got on the table for the city. It'll be a great home for our two teams, but the P&L is built out around arts, music, entertainment, comedy, award shows, all the things that we've known and loved for our lifetimes. As to sports and esports by extension, because I think more and more as them being similar or the same, that's our business thesis in a lot of ways, that esport will be sport for today's generation of fans and going forward. It scales infinitely, and particularly as we start to wade into the NFT discussion. I have a friend who's in that space in the application side, and she likes to refer to it as mintable moments. NFTs go so much further than the art, the digital art, but how do you capture and record for all of time moments that are personal to you? I think that'll be really fun and interesting to see take shape. I think sport will become only more valuable as appointment viewing, as experience driven. The anonymity that we're about to realize on the blockchain, I think will only drive us to want to be together and have memories and moments together. I think that's going to be really compelling, and I think sport is a great facilitator of that.
Jennifer, anything you'd like to add there?
No, I'm fascinated, with what Chris is doing, and certainly we've been watching that space and, trying to figure out the right entry point, like what is valuable enough to get people to come, cross the line into NFT and whatnot. So I'm very curious to listen to the panel. Happy to be here with everyone today. Amazing.
Because we've got a nice little section carved out here to dive into the whole NFT world and that the idea of tradability, scarcity, et cetera, in the space. I want to kind of just rewind for a second and just focus a little bit on esports. And Chris, this is more for you, but maybe just give everyone a quick background on esports. I'm sure some viewers will may not have heard the term or may not or most importantly, just want to hear how you describe it and how you see it through your eyes, just what it is.
Yeah, so given my sport background, it won't be surprising to anybody that I draw on a sport analogy, but I'll use Call of Duty as an example. There are 240 million people in the world that love and play that game with some regularity and frequency. The highest expression of that game played competitively is played in the Call of Duty League and the best 60 players in the world play in that league. And we own one of the franchises that plays in that league. There are 12 today, and certainly we imagine and anticipate that the league will grow in size and scale. But, again, if I were to use in this country a hockey analogy, there are many hundreds of millions of people all over the world that love and play that game. And the highest expression of that game played is the National Hockey League. And so we're invested in those positions in esports around the game titles that are played competitively at the highest level. And maybe most importantly to us, that have a business model that is predicated on traditional sports. So we only invest in closed league franchise opportunities that allow us to share in revenue streams that emanate from the leagues, and also grow, again, a local business around sponsorships and licensing and fan engagement and ticket sales and so on. So our franchises are analogous to NHL, NBA, NFL business model, and we get to enjoy and sit inside the enterprise growth of those leagues that we're invested in over time. And just to draw the comparison to the rest of the global ecosystem, of course, there are many games that are played around the world, many game titles, many publishers attached to those games. But unless you're invested in these franchise leagues, then effectively you're playing for prize money on the weekends. It would be the equivalent of building a business model around playing poker or horse racing for a living. And so again, we like to believe that our core investments in the esports space are going to be over time the most sustainable positions in the competitive gaming space.
Right. And you see structure being something that's thriving within that community, and people kind of gravitating and value gravitating towards structure versus more of a decentralized structure in esports that some of the other games are modeled. I would say that
we see the most sustainable model on the competitive side as rooted in the leagues, as I've described. But there's no doubt that there's a lot of economy rooted in the decentralization of gaming broadly. I mean, I'll draw my personal experience. In the early days of my sports career, I was attached to the early days of the Toronto Raptors. And, in this country, basketball had a lot of what I'll call casual fans, but they didn't have a team to cheer for in Canada. And so, we all looked on as the Raptors and the Grizzlies in Vancouver were launched. And in those days, our marketing efforts were rooted around things like education, teaching the rules in some cases, helping fans or aspiring fans learn how to watch and at some level, for the younger generation, participate. And we knew if we gathered up that broad funnel, we would be able to, build awareness and drive trial around ticket sales and broadcast and convert them in fans over time. And I think it could be fairly said that, the Raptors and Maple Leaf Sports have done that over 25 years. You only need to look to our Jurassic Park around a playoff game and know that they've got lots of support, or a championship, celebration and parade. So we certainly believe that there's a broader opportunity as well as part of a fan development strategy around gaming at large. And certainly I think, some of the things that we'll spend time talking about around NFTs and digital experience and tokenization on the blockchain, all of those things I think will lend to that and be contributing to the growth and development of the competitive game set that we've been talking about.
Right. And just to close the loop then on the kind of theme just around production and what's been going on there. I mean, esports is unique in that it's kind of really the first real digital first media, surrounded it with a sport kind of layer, leveraging production in a live event, which I think is pretty cool. And that live event can be in real life, completely digital, or a combination of both. And so I think just, to draw on your sports analogy, what traditional, production techniques have you guys borrowed? Just, obviously kind of seeing both sides of that and really, having, a foot in real life corner for esports. And, just to kind of close the loop on your longer term view, how do you see that going, just really from the in real life angle for esports?
Yeah, I think that question has a bunch of layers, and it's a very intuitive question. I think I think you're going to watch esports shape traditional sports in the way it's consumed and enjoyed, particularly on digital platforms and at distance. And I'll give you an example that we could look back on historically. The NFL was consumed in a certain way for a long time as a very successful broadcast property that was nurtured over decades. And then weirdly, the XFL arrived for a minute and changed the way we thought about how to consume that, right? In a number of ways, but I'll give you the most lasting piece of it from my mind, which is that spider cam that floats over the field that was an XFL creation and literally changed the way we could consume the game and think about it and be, frankly, almost immersed in it, at least as far as that technology arrives or allows for. I think, some of what we already see in esports will soon be present and enabled by digital platforms like we've been discussing. So, one of the most compelling things for my 82-year-old father when he watches our Call of Duty team play is the fact that our fans are talking about what they're watching real time on the screen, right? That the chat engagement and the discussion around the players and the step that's compelling for even someone who doesn't understand the game and again, generationally doesn't fit to it. I think you'll see, and I think you'll need to see the emergence of traditional sport being consumed like esport in those ways. I think gambling at some level will drive that. I think in-game prop bets and some of what we imagine or some of what we know is already happening on the gambling scene as it takes root in traditional sport, and as those traditional sports pivot to digital platforms where content currency opportunities can be embedded, and whether you're buying the jersey or placing a bet on who's going to get the next first down, there can be a whole number of things I think that spring from that.
Which all just kind of stitches it together, right?
Yeah, that's right. And then finally, just to esports future, I would say let's not assume for even a moment that the way we're watching esports and gaming consumed today on platforms like Twitch and YouTube is in any way remotely similar to the way it could be consumed in even 3 or 5 years from now. And again, I hate to use the phrase, but what the metaverse will open up for us is a chance, I think, to be immersed in the game as fans in a way that traditional sport does not allow, right? At least not today. I think, the advent of Oculus and other similar technologies in the home in the same way that set-top boxes are a reality in every house in the world, or in the Western world at least. I think that technology emerges to the home. It has all kinds of applications. And I think one of them will be watching game publishers build an immersive experience for you to enjoy, both as a casual player and as a matter of watching it played competitively. And it goes on and on. So again, I think it's going to be a really interesting few years here. And I think however fast it seemed up to now, it's going to be accelerated in the next 5 to 10 years for all of us, whatever we're doing in the space.
Yeah, which makes sense. And your comment around the metaverse, I think, is a good segue for us to look at NFTs. And, it ties back to your comment as well, just on NFTs around really being collectible moments, or at least that being, I think, one subset of what they're about. And, for everyone, NFTs, non-fungible tokens, they've provided this kind of entirely new frontier in terms of monetizing creative content. And so this question is for Network. And I think, Tom, maybe you're the best one to take this. But just, what do you see in terms of NFTs? And maybe actually the best way is just to rewind for a second and just explain to everyone what non-fungible tokens, NFTs, are from your lens.
Absolutely. Great. Yeah, so I think it's worthy, if we think about the future, let's kind of look back to the past for a little bit, right? So technology is moving so fast, right? So there's been, computing cycle waves over the last like 10, 15 years, right? 50s and 60s, we had mainframes, 70s and 80s, we saw PCs. Into entertainment, we have Betamax, and VHS. 90s brought DVDs and really good like gaming consoles, which turned into DVD players, so sort of merging. But then the real breakthrough, in the 2000s, the mobile experience. And let's not forget, the iPhone is only 15 years old, right? 2007?
2007, yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah, so this, when we look forward, to things like, Web3 generally. And Web3 are things like we've AI, artificial intelligence, machine learning, but then we get into like the metaverse and cryptocurrencies, blockchains and NFTs, right? So I just make a point that like some of these things we talk about in the future are like buzzwords, right? They're narratives, right? Narratives are just ideas that aren't proven out yet, right? So the ones that are proven are just called history, right? So when we think about history, let's talk about the present, right? We have this high-powered internet that is providing streaming services, streamers, right? Independent creators. Social media is allowing people to connect directly peer-to-peer. We have gameplay from different game producers. And then even in sort of media consumption, right? We're getting more into shorts and YouTube enabled creativity, right? So this social media is really bringing IP talent together with users in a more direct way, right? So we have that deeper level of engagement, and that's so powerful. So we think that NFTs are essentially where investment meets culture, right? So NFTs are often ways to financially incentivize creators and audiences to come together and to create something. So enough buzzwords, right? What are NFTs? NFTs are essentially digital items that are that with verifiable ownership that can't be counterfeit, right? So instead of like let's stay within like digital files, right? Instead of having centralized databases like Dropbox or Facebook, YouTube, NFTs are stored on a blockchain. It's essentially like a digital ledger of transactions that is duplicated and distributed across like an entire network of computer systems, as opposed to someone holding a key. So, in the example of like Bitcoin proved that, this ledger of ownership and transactions, it can be maintained. And today it secures over $1 trillion in value without being compromised. But it's early days. Cryptocurrency, I think, has a very large market, but it struggles with this financial regulation, inclusion, and tech and tool support. But I really think that NFTs are the Trojan horse of blockchain technology, because it's making them accessible to billions of people. So NFTs currently are used as like collectibles, right? And that's a giant market, right? Baseball cards, cars, guitars, in early days, bead shells, the whole thing. As we got into trying to early attempts to authenticate digital items, things like copyright, things like DMCA, things like Apple using like this old DRM and watermarks, none of this stuff works, right? And it's largely been, not largely abandoned, but close. NFTs, and the system for creating an NFT, it's a representation of a digital object. So, right now we're using it for art in the form of a JPEG file. So this record of ownership is stored on a ledger that sort of no one controls. And the authenticity can be tracked all the way down to the original creator. So right now we're doing it with art, which is cool and it's fun. And largely NFT art is more productive than physical art, right? You have a digital authentication, not an appraisal from some auction house. You have portability, you can take it anywhere. And it's saleable across time and space. So instead of going to an auction house, you could sell it in a virtual market. But most importantly, I think it's, if you take a piece of fine art that's only available to like 8 people who get to go to some fancy penthouse dinner party, now you have a piece of art that can be shared with 8 billion people around the world. And then that's super important. So, so just kind of in summary, like NFTs are attaching rightful, authentic ownership to digital assets. Right now, they're being used as like profile pictures on Twitter. They're being speculated on in a very vibrant financial market. But if you think about the images today, apply that same like interaction you have with an image, but apply it to a video or music or things inside of gaming items. Everything that's included in the metaverse and what we're talking about in metaverse, right? So we're really excited about it, and we think it's going to be not replacing a lot, right? This is a new medium of interaction, but it's going to bring people together in really powerful ways that not only people that are like fan clubs that want to be a part, want to be close to the talent and music, but you can create these financial incentives that really builds communities and builds economies and brings people together in a powerful way.
That's great, and I appreciate that context. And before I jump into a question for Jennifer, Chris, I just wanted to kind of circle on something here that's kind of been on my mind just around this, concept of community and, coupling that with tradability, scarcity, accessibility, and what's going on with what you guys are doing, which is, esports is really empowering the digital celebrity or the gaming celebrity, which is, I think, a really new term. I'd like to kind of pause there and let you just maybe educate people on, what is the gaming celebrity, and just maybe provide some context on, how big some of these, digital stars are and what their followings are.
Yeah, so names that would jump to mind for purpose of illustrating the point would be, in this country, XQC or Shroud. Ninja would be a name that I think, might be close to household recognition by now. And, in the cases of those three young men, I think the numbers I've seen around the first two are orders of magnitude, 10 million social followers. And I think Ninja's closer to 16 or 17. And, that rivals, I did a little checking this afternoon. Tom Brady and Giselle are both running around 17 million. LeBron seems to be the king of all of them at 100 million. But the point is that there are new celebrities born into this community, new personality that not only have reach to audience, but have high engagement. And at the end of the day, it wouldn't matter what the medium, that's what brands are looking for. And so when we talk about our brand purpose as a company, we talk about delivering today's generation of fans. And, for us, what that means is a generation that thinks differently about their sports and media and entertainment choices, that isn't as inclined as I am to sit and watch 3 hours of college football, but maybe can only take digital shorts 6 minutes at a time and is, meanwhile got 2 other screens going on and texting with their friends. So these celebrities in their own right are garnering a lot of commercial attention as well, and have grown to be of significant wealth in some cases, and again are creating a whole marketing medium for brands and so on. And so that has reach into the esports space, more broadly into the gaming and entertainment space. And I would submit again, I think we're already starting to see it. There have been a couple of legit artists that have entered the mainstream and are showing up in real life as artists and as legitimate entertainment acts. And so when we think about how we might program our venue in the future, I don't think we're reduced to, John Legend and Lady Gaga and the latest comedy act. I think TikTok and YouTube and Twitch will produce future entertainment that will want to be consumed and enjoyed in real life. And I think we all need to be thinking about these platforms as factories for that kind of talent and experience for fans.
Right. And I mean, on the celebrity gamer, and just maybe to close the loop on the NFT side, do you see the opportunity through, celebrity gaming stars that, you guys maybe are managing or close to, et cetera, being able to kind of leverage their brand through NFTs or scarce skins or skins that can be tradable kind of moving forward? Do you guys think through that at all as being an enabler for them and for ultimately for you guys as warehousers of these, talent?
Yeah, like everybody on this call, it seems we're thinking about all the many multitudes of applications that come with NFTs, of course, but let's spend a couple of minutes just on the things you're pointing to. So, these celebrities with such huge following and considerable reach will have the opportunity, I think, to tokenize the experience that, correlates to them and their experience, not only online, but perhaps in real life. So you can imagine, again, someone like XQC or Ninja being able to tokenize, fan following and engagement with him online, and then create an in real life experience for his closest fans and biggest and most engaged followers on the other side. As it goes to gaming and esports, I think we should be watching companies like Engine out of Australia and others who are creating tokens and opportunities that they imagine will be able to cross game platform. And the first one who breaks through and convinces both Riot and Activision Blizzard to use the same the same architecture, I think is a winner there. And boy, will that scale in a hurry when you can take your currency from game to game and apply it. Again, I don't think that's at all out of the realm. So it goes on and on, I think, in terms of scalability, and we're really in the bottom of the first inning or top of the first inning. We might still be warming up the pitchers in the bullpen.
Bottom
You know,
line,
Sean-
just exciting.
Sean, there's one really good, Jennifer made a point earlier on this, in this webinar about, you know, it's the IP holders, the creators, like they're, you know, no matter how all these platforms that are utilized in marketplaces and technologies, you know, they're going to change and come and go. But in this paradigm that we live in, this just sort of fire hose of entertainment and media, it's really the value is going to be held by these IP holders and by these celebrities and these esports artists. And so, you know, we're working to, you know, provide that sort of platform for them to be successful in this new medium. But, you know, essentially, it's going to come down to, you know, who wants to have a voice within these digital experiences. We're getting into the metaverse, but this digital representation of these celebrities and athletes, it's so important. And so for us, it's like we're focused on that part of it and what we can do to support them. The technology, the coins, the platforms, the marketplaces, they'll figure themselves out.
Right. And just on that, and this is a question for you, Jennifer, and something I'm really curious about is, you know, just Tommy, talk about the strength of the IP holder, or, you know, when we're looking at through the esports lens, the strength of, you know, the individual gaming, you know, brand, that person, that brand that they created, which is ultimately content. So, you know, there's been a proliferation of platforms, just in terms of whether it's streaming, linear content or streaming gameplay, whatever. There's been a real proliferation of that, and you know, there's a thought that content remains king, is king, period, full stop. And Jennifer, I'd love for you to comment on that. Like, do you believe content to be king still? Do you see that perhaps in a different lens? Is it not so black and white, but it's gray? What's kind of your view there?
Absolutely. I think content remains king. And, you know, for all of our companies, holding on to your own content as much as you can to build the long-term value is key. It's just what Tom said. The brands are what can get translated into how, you know, however people are consuming content, and it's changing regularly, but you know, you need the brand, you need the content in order to span all these ways of reaching people. So for us, that is our focus on that. And there's a lot of different ways to consume content and to get the content out there. You know, I think Derik touched on this, all of the new players coming online, Apple, Disney, and they're not startups. So they're here to stay. There's a lot of different means for you know, create your content, get it noticed, create a major global brand, and then what life it takes beyond that, be it you know, some form of esports, gaming, NFT. I think the possibilities are endless, and that's really is what is exciting to watch unfold. I mean, I always think the iPad only came around in 2010. That's crazy. That doesn't seem that long ago, and now our kids pick up an iPad like it's this big clunky thing. So you never know.
Sean,
Yeah.
I think it'll be interesting to see older brands be rejuvenated and perhaps even reborn to a new generation of fans. I think about Jamie Salter's company in New York, Authentic Brands, and what they've been doing over years, right? They acquired Sports Illustrated.
Yeah.
You know, I think they own Marilyn Monroe and I think the Beatles, I might be wrong about that. Muhammad Ali, I think they've got Shaq. All those, you know, they've been in the habit of buying up, you know, brands like Reebok and others. Like, imagine the rebirth, the regeneration of those brands in a digital world has all kinds of potential to arguably an audience that in some cases would have never heard of them before. They truly, everything old is new again in that context. So I think it'll be fun to see that company really, you know, content is king, but IP might wear the pants, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, just with respect to the digital side of that, whether it's digital, a skin that's attached to that IP or whatever. I mean, in a world of supply chain issues that we're living in right now, that's a little bit different in the digital realm when you're distributing digital objects, which is pretty, I think, exciting for some of these brands to kind of just step back and start thinking about that. And we're seeing that with the fashion guys, some of the big fashion groups as well, right? Doing not so much even dipping their toe in the water, but maybe, both feet right now, it seems, just with what's going on there. Yeah, it's a great point. It's super exciting. And I mean, Derik, I'd love your view as well. I mean, are you kind of on the same train, content is king, IP wears the pants? I like that. That's a good tagline.
Yeah, no, it is. I mean, I think for us, we've always valued, intellectual property and also relationships, very direct relationships with A-list talent that we collaborate with. So that collaboration has really been the hallmark of our success if you look at it. And, when you're creating something, it's really interesting when you're talking about this new NFT universe. One of the things that excites me is to be able to create content and work directly with your audience. I don't know, is that creator to consumer, is that C to C? I don't know what it is, but at the end of the day, that's what we're going to be able to do. And, oftentimes in our universe, we'll create content and it's a hit show and, you get that recognition. It has, ratings and awards and all that kind of thing. But I have to say, when we launched our Age of AI series on YouTube that Robert Downey Jr. was our partner on and was front and center introducing every episode, to watch that over the course of a week go from 0 to 45 million views, even though we weren't working directly with our audience, we had that visual, we could see it, we could feel it. And so that's something that's very exciting. And I love the fact that, our company is built on the premise of quality and creativity and collaboration and trust. And we're so deeply immersed in music and pop culture and film and comedy and sports that I just look at what's in front of us and I think to myself, I'm just excited by what's next, and I have this little plaque up on my wall. I shouldn't call it plaque, it's just a printout, and it goes right back to my reference to Muhammad Ali in our Academy Award shortlisted film. But Muhammad said once, the man that has no imagination has no wings. And that's always just been something I've kind of glanced up and it's kind of given me goosebumps, I have to say. But I think it really does apply to this universe that we're all, living in today, all of us. And I'm excited by what's next.
Yeah, and I mean, bottom line, I think just the general feeling that I sense from, everybody on this panel is just excitement. I think that's it's not fear, it's not trepidation, it's not elbows up, it's excitement. And everyone here is in a different slice of that pie, but you're all kind of locked arms looking forward and seeing just a wonderful, exciting growth opportunity all the way around. And that's kind of the bottom line feeling that I get. And on that note, I think we're going to wrap it up here, just for time. And, I think at the end of the day, I really just want to thank all of our panelists for making the time to come on here. Jennifer, thank you so much. Chris, Derik, Tom, I very much appreciate it. And Robert, thanks to you and your group for putting this together and connecting the dots.
Fantastic. Thank you, Sean.
Yeah, pleasure. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Sean and Robert. Thanks.
Thanks.
Everybody.
Yeah.
And
Take
great to
care.
meet you, Chris.
Thank you.
Yeah, I can't wait to
Bye-bye.
watch
Happy
it.
holidays.
And for full disclosure, I'm not a personal shareholder of any of the companies on this panel.